Welcome to ShatterCast, where we talk all things value with video. And today's episode is all about what is Shatter Content, get found, and get leads. I'm Joe Hickey, I'm the Shatter Guy. I'm joined again by Alex Lowe, our marketing guy, and Nathan Nicholson, our sales guy. So I suppose I'll kick this one off and actually talk about what Shatter Content is. I suppose it makes sense for me to go that route. So Shatter Content for me goes back a little while, back when probably about 5 to 7 years ago, I first sort of started getting into the world of working with a lot of personal brands, a lot of business coaches, a lot of PTs. I was in and around the fitness industry as well. And in all honesty, I was creating Shatter Content without knowing it for a few years. And I'm quite aware that a lot of people, this might be their first time of hearing Shatter Content or Shatter anything at all. So I'll explain what it means in a minute. But essentially, I was creating a lot of content and didn't quite work out why it was working for the people that I was doing it for. And then after a few conversations with some of the business coaches, I actually realized what it was. And then I heard the term Shatter Content once on an obscure podcast, which I can't remember what it was, from a person who I can't remember who it was. It's the only time I've ever heard it explained that way. And for me, the penny dropped and it just stuck. So I kind of rebranded everything I did in and around the idea and the concept of Shatter Content. Essentially what it is it's repurposing content. Now we hear the term repurposing thrown around quite a lot as well. And, you know, for those in the know, it makes sense. They know what it is. But again, if you're not really a creator in the sense, if you're not really putting out content a lot, then the idea of repurposing content can seem a bit alien and not quite know what it means. So what we do, and the way true Shatter Content works, is it is literally shattering content out. So I'll use this as this piece of content that we're creating now as an example, right? So the next 30 minutes, you're going to join us and we're going to be talking about all the things to do with Shatter Content. So we will create a 30-minute piece of content. This will go out. This is live on LinkedIn. This will then be repurposed, edited slightly, and then put up onto YouTube as well. Then what will happen is we will shatter it, meaning we will break it up and we'll take little bits away from that, little bits of value, whether it's a full couple-minute answer or response to a question, whether it's less than 60 seconds, whether it's less than 20 seconds, as long as it's a piece of value. And again, we come back to something we spoke about last week, is always have the viewer in mind, knowing that it's going to be valuable for them. And we keep that in mind as we break these down into the edits. Again, try and serve a purpose, try and have some kind of call to action, some kind of setup and hook on the front if we can as well. But we're shattering the content down so that we can create nuggets of value that can help push people in a certain direction of whatever your plan and purpose is. So I think I've been speaking a little bit. So Alex, what is your thoughts on what's the power behind doing that? What's the power behind shattering a piece of content? And why would you do it?
Yeah, good question. Well, I think you kind of gave a really good overview there. I think from a marketing perspective, it comes back to like, well, what's the function of anything? Because when you have content, you always have to go, well, you have short content and long content. Basically, you have those two types of content and they can fulfill a variety of different functions. But essentially, long content educates, inspires, builds a relationship. It's a video that somebody might watch all of and go, okay, this was really insightful, interesting. I want to follow this person on YouTube. I want to follow this person on LinkedIn. I want to go look at their stuff. A short form video is a small little snippet of value or insight, or just a small snippet that introduces you to somebody. So you can think of it as short and long content. Long content is to build the relationship and add value. Short content is to be found, be discovered, and just put you in front of people. And I think the best way that most people can understand this is just think about how you tend to consume content. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but like I've got my phone on me most of the time, and my phone is how I discover like 90% of content. And then I might follow somebody on YouTube or follow somebody somewhere, and I might go and watch a full episode or a full video. But it's generally on my phone, like in those moments of the day when I'm just browsing or having a coffee or on public transport, I look and I see a video or I see a topic come up and I like it, favorite it, save it, even take a screenshot of it so I can look them up later. So short form content is basically to be discovered, to get your brand out there and be top of mind. Because if somebody likes or stops on one of your short form videos, they'll be shown another and another and another. And if somebody likes those videos or gets into that world, generally they'll be suggested one of your long videos And if they get into your long videos, they're then part of your audience, basically. You're building the know, like, and trust factor. And then obviously the rest of the marketing funnel kicks off after that. So that's what I'd say the power is. If anybody's wondering, like, oh, why should I bother with Shatter videos? Why should I bother with short form videos? They're the best single tool probably for getting your brand out there in front of your target audience for when they might be ready to start a relationship with you.
It's a great way of growing. I mean, we say the first thing you need to do is grow that visibility, and Shatter content is great for that. I look at it in the sense of it's almost like an icebreaker. So when you go networking and you don't really know how to open up or to add value straight away, this is kind of a way of doing it digitally and almost automated, because you don't have to physically be there. And if it's on value to the right person, they're instantly engaged with you. And like you say, then hopefully the idea is they then binge a bit more of your content, and then a bit more, and they go on to maybe watch longer form stuff. And the research shows that the more time anybody consumes your content, the more time they invest in you and the value you've got to give, the more likely they are to take the next step, whether that is just the next step down the journey or whether that's actually converting into a paying client. How have you seen Shatter content, Nath, help even what we do or our clients?
Yeah, I think Shatter content just makes it easy to be consistent. I think more often than not, I speak to people that say I struggle to be consistent or think they're being consistent when actually you look at their YouTube channel or their social media presence and they're not being consistent. It also gives the ability to be omnipresent. And people talk about being omnipresent, meaning that they're on all channels all the time. But how do you do that and still do your day job? 90% of people that we work with are actually still in their day-to-day business and they're working day-to-day. They don't have time to be taking videos and doing all of the things that is required. I think the other big kind of takeaway for me is that people often come to us and say, actually, I've tried videos and it didn't work. I think what we've now come to understand is that having videos and Shatter videos, we have seen it time and time before where we've come into done shoots and we've handed over a load of videos, but actually they've got no plan and no strategy as to what to do with those. I think having a clear plan and a clear strategy along with that, clear call to actions, clear customer journey, and understanding of what's the next logical step in the customer's journey, that's how you overcome that. So yes, having Shatter content and having lots and lots of content that you can be posting out is great, and you will still get leads, but it's about understanding what is the plan behind that, what's the call to action. So when we shatter in content, it's having that long form video, and generally speaking, we'll use the short form videos to push to the longer form video, as Alex was pointing out earlier, that actually that's where you build the authority. The short form is where you get seen and get found. And that's the missing piece from a customer journey, from a sales point of view. I think that we've really honed in on and really get a good understanding, and that's where we help most of our clients add value to just video shoots.
I think you've touched on a couple key points as well there, which I think I kind of breezed over really, is one thing that the Shatter content allows you to do, like you say, is to be omnipresent. And the way it does that is because we can create Shatter content en masse from the long form. That's the power of it, is that it's not just, okay, we've made a shorter version of the long form. It's that you can take multiple versions. I think from our last episode, I've already pulled out 20 odd pieces of content, possibly more, that I haven't had time to go through yet, that, you know, we can use on our socials to promote that longer form piece of content. So it allows you, it stops you from having to think every day of going, what do I post today? What can I make today? I don't have to make it. We already made it. We did it in one sitting, and it's just a case of now going and shattering it out and utilizing that content for it, allowing you to be consistent and allowing you to maintain that consistency to be present in people's mind and build that trust with them.
Yeah, it gives you the opportunity to test as well. From a marketing point of view, Alex, I'm sure you'll second this, is that actually it's not about where you want to be, it's about where your ideal viewer is and where your ideal clients are. So if you can be omnipresent, you can test it on multiple different platforms, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and you have the ability to do that without having to create new content every day to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's it when you're saying, Joe, about like how we create it, in terms of you can either just create it as small videos, or you take a longer video and you you shatter it and you create these smaller bits. Because one of the things generally people will always be like is like, well, how do I be omnipresent? I don't have that much to say, or how am I ever going to find the time or the, to come up with all this content? But as we know, like even now, it's like if you're asked a good question or you have a good topic and you're an expert in it, it's your business. And somebody's just like, tell me about this subject or answer this question. Generally, the problem is not having too little to say, it's having too much. And any little bit that you grab out of that becomes a fascinating insight for somebody who's new to the market or doesn't know you, or everybody has all of this amazing gold just locked up in their head. But unless you're asked the right question or in the right space, you can't unlock it. So when business owners are like, how am I supposed to be omnipresent? How am I supposed to show up everywhere? I don't have that much stuff. It's like, you have way more than you think. You just haven't been in the proper place or coached to get it out of your head. And like, we do this all the time. I just think I so many times I'll be like, oh, that's an interesting point on a like a short form video or like a reel or something. And I'll go look the person up. Oh, they've got an Amazon book. Let's get that. Oh, they got a website. Let's have a look. So it's like, even though it might not seem like much, these small little videos, they really are an amazing way of starting to build that audience. And as Nathan, as you said before, consistency. We all know if we're consistent at stuff, we're going to beat the people who are inconsistent. We all know I should be more consistent at that, but it's difficult. It is difficult to be consistent at stuff constantly. That's why this is the best way to do it, because you just, a small little video shoot or just a small amount of time gives you this huge amount of content that just becomes an endless content machine that's just out there where your ideal clients and prospects are, building a relationship. So yeah, it's a really good thing to be doing as part of your marketing and sales.
Yeah, I mean, we can typically do a one-day shoot and have up to 3 months worth of content, which you're going to struggle to get that amount of content working with agencies and that sort of thing. Period.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, and maybe this is probably a topic for another episode. But idea generation, how to actually get started, is always often the very first hurdle that people hit, and it comes from they turn the camera around or flick a light on, and their brain goes blank, and they forget their name, they forget everything they do, and that's something we hit on a daily basis. And I think there's so many different ways around that. I do think we probably just do that in a different one. Agreed, guys?
Yeah,
definitely. Except just to say, like I said before, it's all about helping to access what's in your brain already. Like even just questions. Like so many people go about content creation wrong, and then they wonder why they struggle. So just if you are out there struggling with it, it can be a lot simpler than you think. I think we just throw that out there because I mean that's something a lot of people don't realize.
Well, that's the whole concept of shatter content. And I know we were talking before this is I was saying, when it comes to even explaining it, it's quite a simple concept. And it's simple because it works. You take long form and you break it down into shorter form. And there's varying levels of it depending on how deep you want to go on it. But ultimately, it all serves that purpose of sort of the omnipresence and being able to push people in the direction that you want to push them. And I think there's a key thing to consider with it as well, is that don't focus on the metrics of it. I mean, we say this about a lot of videos anyway. Don't worry about the views. Don't worry about subscribers that you gain and stuff, because that's ultimately not the goal. And I'm seeing it more and more now that actually big numbers doesn't mean big return. So, and the shatter content it's not, a lot of the time, it's not designed to go viral. It's not designed to gain you hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of views. If you can, great. But actually, the idea of it is it's gaining you the right sort of views. It's gaining you the right kind of audience, because they're the audience you want to push down that journey. I mean, we've got a client that we work on his podcast with, and we've been working on it for a while now. And he's, he's not on huge numbers. We've got him up to a couple hundred subscribers. I think we're up to 3, nearly 400 subscribers. And even his regular views aren't huge. I mean, he's in a very, very, very niche industry and a very, very niche topic, which would be hard to crack even for YouTube. But just by being visible, utilizing YouTube and a long form content, utilizing the shatter content that we've broken off from it, indirectly it's paid in it for itself in dividends, because it's opened doors. It's opened opportunities to old businesses he used to work with that he forgot what he's doing or weren't sure what he's doing, or maybe he's changed tact on what he's doing since then. It's opened opportunities with huge brands, which I'm not certain I can say, so I won't say who they are. But we're talking tens of thousands of pounds worth of deals. I think there's multiple, possibly into the six figures worth of deals off not a huge amount of subscribers, not a huge amount of views, but the fact that the content is there, it's consistent, he's being visible, he's being recognized, I forgot what the title was, but he's being noticed, that he can, the doors are opening and the opportunities are there, and he's stepping through.
There's a few things to say to that, yeah, because like one thing is, and I've noticed this so many times, is like when you start to get visible, even if it's not to many people, if you're just showing up, opportunities come through, because then people will say, oh, this person knows so-and-so. Do you want to come on my podcast? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Like, people will start, if you're visible. For those of you business owners who look on this, you might know the name Dan Kennedy, like a famous sales marketing guru. And he brought out a book called Wealth Magnet. And I always remember two of his wealth secrets were be somebody and be everywhere. And this is the way I often frame it with this kind of content, is like, first of all, you have to be a somebody. That is, you have to be, I am the expert in X, or I am the person to talk to about Y. And obviously, if you have a channel or if you have content, that automatically makes you a somebody. And you have to be everywhere the opportunities are. And if you're doing Shatter content, you automatically show up everywhere. So you automatically are a somebody, which gets you opportunities, and you're everywhere, which gets you, where the opportunities are. And as you said, Joe, it's like, it's not how many people you're showing up for, it's how many of the right people. And if you're targeting something very niche, well, even if it's only a trickle of viewers every month, if they're the viewers that are the right ones for whatever niche thing you're doing, if they like you, if you're good, if you give them value, chances are that's going to progress and become a sale or a sales opportunity. So don't get stuck in what we could term vanity metrics of like, oh, I want millions of views and viral. A lot of people who go viral don't make any money out of it. They just get to go, yay, I made 1 million views. The money is in showing up for the right people at the right time with the right message. And that's what Shatter Media is all about. So I just wanted to add that in there, because I think a lot of people, it's going to be a bit of value for them.
I'd agree. And I think sales is very much a numbers game, right? And for me, I always work on effort versus efficiency. And this is a great way of pulling the efficiency lever. So effort is, I don't know, from a sales point of view, how many calls you're making, or kind of how much effort you're actually putting in. Efficiency is how good are you actually at closing those sales or opportunities into sales. And what this will do is it gives you the opportunity to actually build know, like, and trust, but it will also pull that lever, which is your efficiency lever. So you will see your conversion rate go up, because naturally your conversations that you're having, you've already built the know, like, and trust. You know what the next steps are in your customer journey, and you're just leading them down the garden path, holding their hand until they get to the point where they actually want to convert into a sale.
And I think you'll hear us talk about customer journey a lot, because it's something we lean into really, really heavily. Because again, over the years, it's one thing I realized, and it's one thing anybody who's a videographer or video agency usually starts out doing. We start out making videos that look pretty. We love a pretty video. We love it to look cinematic. It's the coolest thing we ever made. I know I've done it before. I used to do loads of them where I'd make it the best thing I ever thought I could ever create in the world. And it would get next to no views, no conversions, no leads, no nothing. It would just fall flat. And it's because ultimately it didn't serve the purpose of the person watching it at the time. Whereas then when you switch it up, and it's why you see people like Gary Vee and Grant Cardone now, is that they'll have the shiny videos, but they'll also flip. They're not afraid to just turn their phone around, flip the camera on, and start talking. And it's those videos where it's just raw and it's them often that will end up converting those leads. They've built authority with the big shiny stuff. They've got attention with the short, snappy bits of value. But to actually convert, then it takes a bit more of a personal touch just to get that in there and get involved.
I think it also goes to, I was just thinking about something today, like that thing about the small channel, I think is quite beneficial actually, because like there's a channel I discovered recently where I've just started watching the shorts when they come up in my phone when I'm cooking. And I see that they've just started the channel. They're not getting the most views, but I like the stuff they do, and I like the people doing it. So when I see their faces come up on my YouTube shorts, I'm like, oh, what are they talking about today? Click, 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 click. Now, I have watched the long form videos off of those short videos. And the thing is, if I was lost in millions of views, it might be different, but because I know, like, oh, I'm part of a small community of people who really like these guys, like what they do, I feel a bit more part of it. So when they're saying like, hey, let us know your thoughts, what do you think, what would you like, I'm more like, oh, I'm part of a small community. And actually, so there's massive value in almost getting started and building a small community, because that can actually pay off. And also, don't forget that another value we can actually have is authenticity. A lot of people are like, oh, I'll do videos when I have the perfect backdrop and I look amazing and I have the this and the that and whatever excuses they put up, I'll do it when. And the key thing is, like, actually, you showing up authentically is the magic, because there might be a load of other accountants, business coaches, whatever it is you do. There might be a load of other people, but there's only really one you. And if you show up authentically, you know, just being yourself, you're naturally going to attract the kind of people that you want to work with and do best. So I'd say there's a value in having a small channel, and there's value in being a newbie, and there's value in being yourself. So all of these things, people go, oh, I can't do videos at the moment because, no, that's your strength. That's not a problem. That's what you actually need to bottle and use. So I think if anybody's wondering about that, it's actually, don't worry, that's actually a good thing. Those things are good ththings.
Well, I mean, you can zoom out from that a little bit as well. And, you know, that's the power of personal brand. And this is why I think personal brand is the strongest type of brand you can have, is because realistically, without trying to sound horrible, anybody can do anybody's job. Anybody can pick up a camera and record like I do. In fact, there's probably a lot of people who do it a hell of a lot better than I do. And if there is, then I'd like to hire them. But the point is, anybody can do your job. So how do you stand out? Because having a USP these days is so hard as well, because everybody's got a USP, and often they're the same. So to be able to help you stand out often is you have to take the steps that others aren't willing to do, which can often be get in front of the camera. So you can put that personality out there, get people to connect with you on that emotional level, build that trust with them, because a lot of people won't do that. And I mean, I'll happily say this to any coach, speaker, author, podcaster: if they're not using YouTube, then they are missing out big time in one way, shape, or form. Any of those should be, because they're all personal brands. They've all got to stand out. You know, it seems like everybody's a podcast now. I know it's still an up and coming industry, and there's still a lot of people that haven't got one, but it is a massively growing industry, and you still need to find a way to stand out. Plus, side note, YouTube is actually the biggest place to find new podcast listeners, which is a really interesting statistic.
You're a leader, aren't you? If you're out there doing stuff, showing up, you're a leader in your industry. You actually are, because you're leading, you're visible, you're putting your thought out there. It naturally gives you a leadership authority. And so if anybody's not doing it, it's like, well, you're going to miss out opportunities to the people who are doing it. And as far as personality goes, I remember working with somebody who was a doctor doing medical videos, and they looked all good. And then one day they did them in their office at a different angle to normal, and I could see the shelf behind them, and they had all of these trophies and like weird ornaments and stuff. And I said, oh, what are they? And they started telling me about, like, oh, this is from a golfing championship, and this is from this, and this is from that. So I said, next video you do, you're doing it in front of the case, and then a couple of times in the video, you're just gesturing to something and telling a quick little one-liner story about it. Now, guess what that guy's comments then became flooded with? I've been on the same golf course. Now, the guy's a medical doctor, but like, so it's not, but why do you think they might have chosen him? He's my doctor because he's got the same interests. He's my doctor because X, Y, Z. So putting your own personality into videos it only turns away people that you should be turning away. It actually puts your personal brand, you, in the spotlight, and that's what people are ultimately going to buy. They're going to buy you as opposed to somebody else.
Yeah, and from a USP point of view, once you start to get traction, if you start doing well, somebody will come along and try and steal that USP, regardless of what that is. If you lead, we worked with recently e-commerce and product-based kind of clients, and we've spun that more into a USP, because actually what that does, as I say, is it protects your USP, because they're buying into you, not necessarily, yes, your product or service is providing them with a solution to a problem that they have. But actually, even if somebody comes and tries to undercut you and say, right, actually, we'll do the same service, but for $2,000, $5,000 less, you're positioning yourself as a personal brand, and you're protecting your personal brand. And by default, you're actually protecting your e-commerce or your whatever business you're in. It doesn't have to be just authors and that sort of thing.
It strengthens a brand as well. Obviously, you have the 3 different brand types, don't you? You have personal brand, business brand, product brand. Personal is the quickest to build and the strongest to have, I think. And it only adds weight to everything else. And the easy examples of that is Elon Musk, Richard Branson. You think of those, you think of their businesses. If Richard Branson was involved with Shatter Media, suddenly Shatter Media gets a hell of a lot more endorsement, gets a lot more clout, and it gets a lot more trust because of the personal brand that Richard Branson has built. That's essentially the power of personal brand, which is why I think even we're doing it at the moment. I'm doing it with me. I could have easily set things up as Shatter Media. The YouTube channel that we've now launched, the Shatter Guy, that could have been Shatter Media, and for a while was until I decided to set it up fresh, because the idea for that is actually because of the power that a personal brand can have, we want to create a bit of a hybrid where I'm the personal brand, whether I want to be or not. I'm the personal brand, and then I can add the strength to the business brand through my knowledge, through my experience, but it helps create a little bit of separation at the same time.
You can always build, like, if you build a personal brand, you can build any product to link to it. Like, I know a bunch of people who, they built great personal brands, and so then they get an opportunity come along and they can promote a certain product, they can promote an event, whatever it is, but there's always going to be something because they built that brand. So they don't have to put all their eggs in like, oh, well, it's this company, it's this thing. And particularly in today's world where everything is so dynamic and fast moving and there's more uncertainty than ever before, if you build up your personal brand and you build up an audience who know, like, and trust you, it just widens everything. It widens your opportunities, your reach, what you can do. And for any business, even ones where they've been established for years and they have a great market and they have a great product and people know them, fantastic. Like, you can definitely boost that with your content, amplify, get it out there. But also, if you start to build your personal brand, you'll probably find there's other revenue streams down the road. There's so many businesses that started off in one place, did a minor pivot, and then, say, even over COVID, like a whole bunch of businesses are like, oh, this is what I do, it'll never change. Oops, I got to pivot. And the ones that have built a good personal brand, what happens? Well, then I'm doing this. Now my company is this. So if you build the personal brand, it's kind of building a moat around your business. It's positioning it, it's making it more shock proof, and there's a whole bunch of other reasons as well, but yeah, that's one of the things you can do with this Shatter content.
What I want to do then is I want to sort of bring this to an end by coming back to something we sort of said at the start is Nathan, I think you mentioned about the idea of being omnipresent, and which can still seem, even with all the Shatter content, it can still seem a bit daunting. So I'm just going to put out there what I do. I don't think there's really a right and wrong way of doing things. I think there's probably, like you say, more efficient ways of doing things, and you can go a lot deeper and a lot more strategic with it. But if a lot of it's quite daunting or you struggle with time, then one of the things that I do with our Shatter content and the way I try to be omnipresent is essentially I look at 2 platforms and they both have a purpose. And this is going to be different for every business and every sector and whatever industry they're in. But I have a positioner platform and I have a promoter platform. And that is your primary platforms. So my positioner platform is YouTube. That's because, it is now YouTube. Now we've launched a YouTube channel, it's going to be YouTube, because that is where my authority content's going to go. That is where my longer form stuff's going to go. It's going to be where I give the most tips, the most education. It's where this content will end up and be archived on, so people can go back and have a look at this and gain value from this. So that is where I'm going to be building trust with my audience. So it's positioning me as a thought leader and an expert in what I do. I then have a promoter platform, and my promoter platform is essentially, it's your primary place of where your audience hangs out, not your favorite platform. Because if I was going to pick a favorite platform, quite honestly, I don't like any of them. I'm not a huge fan of social media. I know the power of it, and that's why I use it. And I know the reason, I know what it can do to a business. So I look at my primary platform. My primary platform is LinkedIn. So when I put content out, the first place it's going to go is LinkedIn, so that when I do the copy and everything like that, I'm going to design that copy specifically for LinkedIn. And then to be omnipresent, it's copy and paste everywhere else. It's as simple as that. Like I say, I don't think there's a right or wrong way. There might be better ways than what I've got, but that's me trying to keep things simple for me, and with all the day-to-day stuff that I've got to do. Have a primary, have a promoter platform. And that is, I think, probably one of the easiest ways to be omnipresent, copy and paste across the rest. So that is our time up. So thank you for joining us this week. If you've been listening, if you've been watching, feel free to drop a comment. And if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask based on this episode, past episodes, whether you've got any questions or topics you want us to go into in future episodes, please do either DM one of us or drop the comments below, and we'll happily talk about all that. As I said before, we've launched the new YouTube channel, which is where this content will be going. So if you want to see other episodes, if you miss episodes, then feel free to go on over there, like it, subscribe, all the usual YouTube jazz, like, subscribe, click the bell button, all that sort of stuff. But we look forward to catching you in the next one. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.